Hey guys, Joseph Babaifa here on the channel that is connecting you to your destiny. First and foremost, Happy New Year, guys. It's been quite a month of January. Thank you so much for your patience with these new videos coming out on the letter or Letra del Año, letter of the year for the new year of 2021. For all of those who haven't had a chance, and this is your first time visiting, not Botanica Candles and More, Joseph Babaifa YouTube channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe, like button. Feel free to comment after the video. And if you haven't had the chance, even though you've been here before, please go ahead and do so now, right, guys? 2020 was a hell of a year. A lot of things going on, especially with the COVID. So we want to see what 2021 is bringing us. And, you know, it's off to a very quick start with a lot of different things going on. So we're going to try and make some correlations here. I'm going to get into a couple of different pataquis or stories that are spoken of in this new sign that was taken out in Cuba, which is known as Ofun, right? So we're going to delve into Ofun, see what a couple of these pataquis have to say, and really get some good interpretations out of them so we know how to proceed within this new year. So I think the first pataqui that really stuck out to me, and no pun intended with this one, it's known as El Desenmascaramiento de Iku, or the unmasking of Iku, or death, right? So being that everybody's been in a mask for the past year, I said, hey, this would be a good place to start, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to delve into the pataqui, see what it says, and then we'll start the interpretation process. And we'll throw some interpretations in the middle too, so we're not just waiting, right? So here we go. What happened in this sign was, of Ofun, was that there was a land, right? And in this land had a queen, right? And this queen, she was very ruthless, she was very cruel, and she had some odd habits. And one of those odd habits or demands is that she would capture all the virgins or young ladies that occupied the land, right? At a very young age. And, you know, separating them from their families, greatly stressing their parents out. And what she would do is she would enslave them, right? And when she would do this, she would keep them away from her family until she became an adolescent or a young lady. And at that point, she would actually sacrifice them. And she did it in a very odd fashion, right? Because the queen, who would later be revealed to be Iku, or death, had this habit of always having hair over her face. And she had this other law that was kind of enacted where all the women in the town had to have their hair up in a bun, right? So when she would actually sacrifice these girls, what she would do with the cadavers, and I apologize, it's a pretty gruesome pataqui, but it has a place where we're going with it, right? Or a concept that we're trying to join and bring full circle with it. She would actually take the bodies to like this chamber she had where she would, you know, nourish herself with them, and then she would cut off the hair, and then she would use this hair to cover her face. And this was all part of her ploy to kind of maintain her true identity hidden, so that people wouldn't have the nerve to start a revolution. Because when something's unknown, you fear it, and when you fear it, usually you don't act against it out of fear, because obviously you don't want to get hurt. So Iku, or death, which in this path was, or in this pataqui was a woman, would cover her face with the hair of her victims, right? So apart from that, you know, people were just getting tired of this. They were tired of losing their children. They were tired of being victims. They were tired of having to live under these laws where women felt constrained because they had to have their hair in a bun. And they basically pleaded to the sky or to God to, you know, handle this or do something about it, because they saw that it was very unjust that they were going through this. So Olofin heard this and said, you know, we gotta make something happen here, because I'm hearing these people complain every day and this isn't normal. So he went to Eshu and he said, hey, I need you to go see Orula, and I need you to please figure out what Ifa is saying about this situation, because I can't handle this obviously on my own. So Eshu went to see Orumila, and divination was performed for Eshu on his journey, and the Odu Ika Ofun was revealed, where Orumila said that the person who was governing said land was actually Iku in disguise, and that Eshu had to go perform Ebo, leave the Ebo at the entrance of the city, and then tell all of the women to take a doll, dress it in the colors of their guardian Orisha, and then let their hair loose and leave the doll in a very visible place within their home, right? And once Eshu was able to confirm that all of the women had done this, he went to his brother Ogun, who under orders of Orumila and Olofin went to go basically capture the queen and take her to heaven to be judged, where Olofin took her wig off and basically said, you've attributed consolations and, rights to yourself that I did not give you. I did not give you a right to torment these people or hurt these people. You've been doing this on your own accord. And because of it, I'm going to punish you and you're going to lose your kingdom. And apart from that, you'll work at the behest of Orunmila, because Orunmila is the one who, has this relationship with death where he can kind of find that gray area to allow us to live longer or eliminate the threat of Iku or Ayewu Iku, right? Long Pataki touches on a bunch of different things, right? I think the first aspect, it speaks of the land that was being tormented. When we look at Earth right now, the United States, Earth, we're all pretty tormented right now. We're moving very cautiously. We don't know, even after a year, necessarily what to do. And our best method of defense at this moment is social distancing and a mask, right? And it's interesting because this pataki is known as the unmasking of Iku, where Ifa says if we do things the right way and we really, battle against this condition and protect ourselves and our loved ones, if everybody takes care of themselves, everybody will be taken care of. And this mask, this condition, which the mask represents to society, can be removed this year, where Ifa says we might make some real headway with this disease, this pandemic, but we have to follow the rules and the advice of the professionals to be able to do so. And whether you're taking the vaccine or not, we'll kind of come to a conclusion on that based on Ifa, but at least wear your mask, even as annoying as it is. And it speaks of how annoying it is because the pataki touches on it. So it speaks of a land that was under turmoil and under oppression and feeling very uncomfortable. And one of the things that was making them very uncomfortable was their leadership, right? And in this sign, the leadership was actually killing the population. Now, I'm not bringing up any conspiracies here, but Ifa says that, our government, the people in power, the people who have influence, we have to not abuse this power. We have to really make recommendations and decisions based on what is best for the people, because in this sign, Iku, or the person in power, was doing everything for their convenience at the expense of society. So who could Iku be, right? Who could death be? I mean, it speaks of someone holding a political position. So it may be referring to our ex-president and us having removed them, and because of this, allowing us to now proceed from it. And unfortunately, it could be referring even to the new presidency, right? Nothing against President Biden or anybody that's in office right now. But Ifa says society has to be wary and allow these people to show who they really are, because we cannot go based off of reputation here. We have to see results. We have to see things being put in place for the betterment of society, the overcoming of this pandemic and, getting back to living normal lives and enjoying life and not living under these conditions anymore. So it's really interesting because we had a monumental election, this past one, where we have an African-American woman in a very influential position, Miss Kamala Harris, our vice president, our lady vice president, right? God bless her and congratulations. But Ifa says we have to be very careful, and really analyze Mrs. Harris's conduct, because in this sign there was a woman in an extreme position of power and she mishandled it. Not saying that's going to be her, but, when it comes to Ifa is precautionary. So, whether she's going to watch this video or not, I highly doubt it. Maybe she will. But, it's really something to analyze here, where Ifa is saying, we really need to analyze who's in power, who just left, who just came in, and really see who they are, because it says that the queen came into power, but no one really knew where they were from or who they were, or, society was getting to know her and getting comfortable with her and really analyzing her decisions, and we have to be very careful in this sign, once again, with political corruption and misuse and abuse of power, right? So not to point the finger at her, but, anybody in a position of power, at least regardless of gender this year, could be, once again, having situations of corruption. Not saying anybody's corrupt, but it may be referring to the past presidency. It may not even refer to corruption. It could just be referring to a misuse of power and policy coming into this new one, or having to fix what was done in the past one if you felt like it needed fixing, right? Depending on your political persuasion. So it touches on that. But it speaks of oppression. This sign speaks a lot about women's rights, women's liberty. In this sign, women were oppressed specifically because in this sign, the adolescent women of the town were sacrificed where we have to be very careful this year with women's rights, making sure that whatever your political views are, that we don't infringe upon the rights of women from a constitutional standpoint. Whether you agree with certain decisions or certain things that are being implemented now, whether it be birth control in any of its forms, whether you think, whatever could be going on in that field as far as women's suffrage and things like that, as long as it's within their right to do so, we really can't infringe upon that, and no one should, right? Everybody makes their own decisions, and we live by the laws of the laws of the land. So we have to be very careful, specifically this message to women: protect your rights, understand your worth, understand what you provide, and don't accept anything less. This year says we have to be careful with young children, women specifically. Making sure people aren't growing up too fast, making sure people aren't being, oppressed or, regulated to the point where we feel like we're not living. Because women here, apart from losing their children or being sacrificed, they were given the demand to maintain their hair in a bun, which is symbolic of this oppression. Possibly, if you look at it that way, where women didn't have the right to express themselves. And I think that may be changing this year even more, because we do have a female vice president, which is a huge achievement for this country. From another standpoint, it could speak of humility, where, Ifa says reservation and, just keeping to oneself and being humble this year, especially from a feminine population, could be ideal. At least until you're in a position to be able to put your policies in place, which may have happened now that we have a female vice president, hopefully. So it speaks of that. It speaks of people getting tired of the conditions that they're living under. Everybody's tired of the mask, me personally. It makes it very hard to breathe with this face. So I've even had to come to the conclusion that, if it's for the betterment and protection of my fellow man or my fellow human being, it's something that we have to utilize. And the longer we persist in not doing certain policies, the longer we're going to persist in basically having to use these things, because the more people that get sick, the longer the mask comes, and God forbid another quarantine, and everybody gets affected negatively. Now, we just want to make sure that, our government, this sign is saying, is only doing things that are necessary, that we're not holding on to certain policies just to, promote an agenda or achieve an agenda. Once we don't need the mask anymore, please, government, let us take it off, because Ifa said the mask came off when it wasn't necessary anymore. People are tired. People are going through it. A lot of people have lost a lot of loved ones this past year. My condolences for that. It says that the people pleaded to the sky and to Olofin and said, how much longer do we have to go through this? And Olofin ended the situation by sending Eshu with resolutions. Now, a really interesting aspect of this Padaki is the doll that they utilized. And I think the doll really represented the replacement of the human being so that it would not suffer from the epidemic or from the tyranny of death, or Iku in this sign, because they would take adolescent women. So rather than taking the adolescent women, the doll would be the victim. And obviously a doll is an inanimate object. So, and then he told them, let loose your hair, or get back to normal life, get back to interacting. Ultimately, Iku was, prosecuted and tried, where Iku had to leave Earth, where Ifa says, Iku leaving Earth could be, metaphoric for the pandemic leaving Earth and not really tormenting, society anymore, where Ifa says we can really get this thing under control this year. But it's going to take a little bit on everybody's behalf to be able to do so, because Elegua told society what to do. If they wouldn't have done it, they wouldn't have been able to capture Iku, take her away, try her, and then ultimately, incapacitate her in that space. So Ifa says everybody has to do their part so we can finally get out of this. But there is a real light at the end of the tunnel this year. Last year with Ofun-The, I really couldn't have said that, because it's just an Ifa of epidemics. And, me personally, I really feel like Ifa said that, things weren't going to be handled correctly this last year. And, pandemics don't come with a textbook. So, we really can't criticize people or policy for not being adequate. But at the same time, things could have been handled better, right? So it speaks of that. So that's the first pataki that we're getting into this year. Guys, thank you so much for your patience. 2021, hoping for the best, hoping everybody's safe. We're going to do a couple more videos on this sign. For all the people that are ikafung, a real treat for you guys, because we're doing interpretations on your Odu. So really take this to the bank. This is legitimate information. For all the people that have subscribed, I want to sincerely say thank you to all of you. I just reached 2,000 subscribers. What a humbling experience. Truly blessed. I'm so thankful of you guys, really supporting us, me, Botanica Candles and More, the channel. we're here to serve you, right? So whatever you guys need, we're here for you. Consultations on an annual basis are still going on. If you still need your annual reading, please contact the Botanica at 407-440-2086. And let's go ahead and get into that next video. Be sure to subscribe and talk to you soon, guys. Blessings, okay? Take care, familia.